To another video, Purple Political Talk here, and today we're going to be going through the 2020 election and doing a deep analysis into what is my realistic my prediction. So if you guys have been watching my videos lately, I've been posting a lot of probably scenarios content. So what if Donald Trump goes and wins in a best case scenario, or what happens if Bernie Sanders enters the race? So those are not my real predictions. Today we're going to go into a solely Trump versus Biden, Pence VP type of scenario, and go deep into the states and looking at my realistic predictions. So I try to update this constantly because things change constantly. You can see states that are super close narrow up even more. States that were farther apart a little bit, farther up a little more, and even states come a lot closer. So let's get started and fill in our safe states. So we can see there's a very big movement for the Democratic Party in the Northeast. That is not a very big secret. So that's going to be the area that's going to support the Democratic Party, I think, for a long time that is to come. And honestly, most of the vote for the Democratic Party will be coming from the Northeast when it comes to electoral count. Yes, they're going to get votes from places like California and the West Coast, or Illinois, or even like at this point New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, and Virginia. But the majority of their base is located in one single area. The Republicans, I think they're going to have to start focusing on the Rust Belt. Republicans can't win without the Rust Belt. In all honesty, you could say Donald Trump's is miracle candidate. He can win. If he loses in the Rust Belt, he wins Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Virginia. So there's going to have to be catch-up games. While I lose here, I make it up here. So that's what we're going to be seeing. And honestly, I think that's all the states, except maybe the state of Indiana and the state of Alaska. So we're going to start in looking at other states that are going to be close. So not all the states in this map are going to be super swing states. And I think, honestly, the term swing states has been misused. Now swing states are considered any state that's going to be close, like as in 15% or less. In my opinion, swing states are those that go in tilt or lean margins. Because at this point, you can say that the state of, for example, Texas is a swing state. Okay, because of how it's used now, it is. But realistically speaking, when the term swing state was designed, it was designed for states that are going to be super close, that realistically has like a 60-40 chance, 50-50 chance of that going to either side. So we're going to start with our Democratic likely states. And at this point, states like Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia, and New Hampshire are trending likely for the Democratic Party. There's a reason I'm saying this. Considering all the demographic changes in all these states, we can see more Latino populations and immigrant voters voting in states like Nevada, Colorado, and New Mexico. We have a lot of the growing suburban Democratic areas in the state of Virginia, and the state of New Hampshire has been generally trending Democratic. So for these reasons, I think these states will go from around 5 to 10%. Because look, these Democrats don't have these bigger likely margins, I guess. Maybe if you can consider the state of Oregon, but we haven't reached that point yet. So where do the Republicans make this up? Well, in the states like Maine's 2nd district, at this point, it's likely for the Republican Party. What I mean by this is that they're probably going to win it by 5 points. It's going to be a close district, yet the 2nd district in Maine is not going to be a state that's going to go out and vote for Joe Biden. They might vote for someone like Bernie Sanders. They're conservative, but Bernie Sanders is from the area. But Joe Biden does not have the same appeal. Now, going into states like Iowa, at this point, not the state of Ohio just yet. And the state of Iowa, at this point, I'm going to go to the Republicans by a nice margin. Same thing in the state of Texas and the state of Georgia. At this point, these 3 states are going to be in nice margins for Donald Trump. He's been gaining a little bit more ground in these states, where he probably has lost some voters, especially suburban voters and then African Americans just turning out. Donald Trump has a huge appeal to the rural and the conservative faces of these states. And remember, every vote counts, especially when it comes to a close election. We have seen very close election, and I think at this point there's going to be one of the closest elections electorally. Possibly, we could see even a electoral college tie. It's very unlikely, yet we could still see it. It's It's nothing out of the ordinary at this point of how the map is set up. We could probably see a tie. So this is what our likely states are look like right now. And right now we have Donald Trump and Michael Pence at 186 electoral votes, and Joe Biden and his VP at 222. Now these states are going to be either lean or light tilt. So these states are going to be essentially what decides the election. Some by the bigger margins than others. When we look at states like Minnesota, we can see a state that is voting a little bit more Democratic, yet still having some Republican sparks in it. It's still not as big enough to light a fire for the Republican Party in the state of Minnesota. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Republican Party gains a huge basis in the state of Minnesota if the Democrats win this election. What do I mean by this? Well, they could possibly take off all the midterm elections and it could actually take a good chance at those elections, and things like that. Look, at this point, more importantly, we have seen in these last couple of days what's more important than the presidency. Although presidency is a good thing to have when making top choices of the judicial system and things like that, Congress and governors are really the ones that call the shots in this country. And honestly, the president is kind of a position that's kind of losing its value. Being the president of the United States is an impressive deed. But at this point, being the governor of a state, you have more say and more of an impact on the individual states. So states like Minnesota, we could probably see them shift to the Republican Party, but I still think they're going to go to by 3 or 4 points. And I can honestly say the same thing in the state of Michigan. State of Michigan will be narrowing down, but I'm not sure if it will be narrowed down to a point where Donald Trump wins. The state of Michigan is a lot more Democratic than last time. And generally, the whole Rust Belt is trending Republican. But trends do not matter, because if you trend Republican in the state of California, which is actually happening currently, what's going to help? You're going to have to make up a 30-point margin. We could probably see that happen in 20 or 40 years. So at this point, states like Michigan will go back to the Democratic column. But by how much? That is the question. When it comes to states for the Republican Party, at this point, Florida is going to be a safer bet to them than any of the other states left. Florida is going to be an interesting race because Democratic margins will go down. And I'm saying this very knowledgeable about the state of Florida and its politics. And being knowledgeable about states of Texas, Arizona, Wisconsin. In the interior politics of these states, we have already seen ticks in Republican vote. And where we've seen this is basically state house districts, actually U.S. Congress districts, although that may be some contradicting information. But generally, when it comes to statewide races, Democrats are losing their big stronghold counties, while they're just going and Republicans are going and winning their big margins in their smaller counties. That would be in the rural parts of the state, and then in the suburban and urban areas of the state, they're increasing their margins. Important in the state of Florida and in a lot of these swing states that become super tight, increase your margins in your strongholds. I've been saying this for since day one when I've been making this prediction, and we can already say I'm pretty sure the state of Florida will go to Donald Trump. I don't know if that would be enough to push him over the top, but at the end of the day, 29 electoral votes is 29 electoral votes. And at this point, the state of Ohio has become a lot closer. I honestly can see some African American vote come out for Joe Biden in areas like Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus. But it's going to be close. But Donald Trump still has those big, huge blue-collar towns that have extremely gone for him, and his support amongst them, although it might have shrunken, it could be enough to still win the state by a comfortable margin. And the Trump campaign is probably going to have to do a couple things. One, keep the Rust Belt. Two, lower the margins. They're going to have to, because there's barely any possibility Donald Trump's going to win by a bigger margin than before. Lower the margins, but to a place where they're safe. There's still 2 to 3 points. It's not going to be something that's going to be mail-in ballots and then they counted absentee ballots and boom, you have a victory out of nowhere, like happened in the state of Florida in 2000. So now looking at the states that are left, these are truly going to be the states that really go by a small margin. At this point, I see states like Wisconsin going for Donald Trump. How do I see this happening? Well, there's many different factors. The state of Wisconsin has been trending a little bit more Republican, and out of all the Rust Belt states, the state of Wisconsin is the closest, and it's the closest in polling. Polls in the Rust Belt are never so reliable when it comes to predicting the actual winner by how much. At this point, they have it in like almost tied. They're like about 2 points away in the polls in the state of Wisconsin. And honestly, it's looking pretty good for Donald Trump. Because remember that Donald Trump has this campaign system where he either pulls in people last minute, or the people that vote for him don't just say anything. So if they can put enough investment in the state of Wisconsin, Trump campaign will probably have a good chance of winning. And that's going to be Biden's campaign biggest issue, money. Joe Biden is not one of those speakers that goes out and gets people and gets those donations. If there had someone like Bernie Sanders, the Democratic campaign would be out of this roof, and you will see Democrats having bigger chances at states like Georgia, Florida, Ohio, because of money. And honestly, it's fundraising. That is all this is. So, taking all that in consideration, state of Wisconsin, I think it's going to go still to Donald Trump. Now, looking at the state of Arizona, I can agree that the state of Arizona, it's looking like it might go to Joe Biden. And in all actuality, I think it will. Now, the big question is, by how much? At this point, the state of Arizona, I think, is good at a lean margin. They have strong votes for the Democratic Party in the state of Arizona. And remember, they're not scared of voting down ballot. So I think at this point, it's going to be by smaller margins than the Arizona Senate race. But still a considerable margin for a Democrat in Arizona, coming like to a 10-point swing, something crazy. It's going to be kind of similar to the effect we saw in the Rust Belt, but this was kind of more prepared for. When it comes to these two last states, I think the state of North Carolina will go to narrowly to Joe Biden. You might be asking yourself, how is the state of Wisconsin going to Donald Trump and North Carolina going to Joe Biden? Joe Biden will choose a woman of color for his vice presidency. And at this point, I think that might be what puts him over the top in the state of North Carolina. He has huge influences in African American states. So anyways, he would have nice influences and things like that. I think he would win the state because of growing populations in areas like Durham, Raleigh, and Charlotte, which are growing a lot more. And you've seen a lot of people from different areas, especially in the technology departments, moving into these cities, which brings a lot of Democratic vote. With the African American base, and I think they're going to be excited to vote in 2020, we're going to see very high turnouts, and that could probably give North Carolina, by a narrow margin, might I say. It's narrow, but it's a win. A win is a win in the Electoral College, especially when it's a close election. I forgot the district in Nebraska. I think that would go by a lean margin. They like progressive there, but if there's not a progressive on the ticket, then the people who vote Democratic a lot, they just stay home and don't go to vote. For that reason, Donald Trump will probably win this race by a margin of 1 to 2%. And the last state we have is the state of Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is probably going to win the state of Pennsylvania, but by a very narrow margin. Donald Trump has very strong support in the western side of the state, near like Ohio or in West Virginia or the Erie County. So that's what's going to end up happening. Joe Biden will narrowly carry out the state of Pennsylvania. Again, all of this could change. Maybe you could see the state of Wisconsin join, the state of Florida join, who knows? But at this point, states are looking better and better for Joe Biden, while still having some possibility for Donald Trump to win. You flip Pennsylvania and North Carolina, Trump wins the election. I think, honestly, in all honesty, the Republican Party will need to invest a lot into the states that are either in tilt or lean columns, because they really have possibilities to win any of them. As long as they put enough money into the races, which I'm sure they will, it's the GOP. That's what's going to happen for the Republican side. Democrats are going to have to figure out something for fundraising, because at this point, their fundraising is starting to pick up again, but it's going to be difficult for them to kind of bring back to that momentum they had in the primary race. So guys, I want to thank all of you for watching. I hope a lot of you agree with my prediction, and tell me what you think about it down in the comments below. I want to see a discussion in the comments below. So yeah, if you guys are not currently subscribed, please do so now. When we reach 250 subscribers, we will be doing a giveaway. And like and subscribe, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.